Hello, and welcome to the question and answer session about CLIR's Digitizing Hidden Collections, Amplifying Unheard Voices program. I'm Louisa Kwasigroch, Managing Director at CLIR and a part of the CLIR grants team. Today, we are here to answer your questions about the currently open call for applications for cohort 3 of the program. This is going to be a relatively informal session, so we don't have a long presentation prepared, but we want to share a few slides to help you navigate this platform, get to know our team, and understand where to go for additional information. If you haven't yet, we'd love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us who you are and where in the world you live. Remember to change the chat box from hosts and panelists to everyone.
So to start off, we want to share some notes about how you can use Zoom during this session. A live transcript is being generated if you'd like to utilize it. To turn on this feature, click the CC Show Captions button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Because so many of you have joined us today, which we're super excited about, attendees will be muted throughout the presentation. However, you're welcome to use chat for general introductions and conversation. If a chat box isn't already displaying on your Zoom screen, you can hover your mouse toward the bottom of the screen and open it manually. In order to send a message to everyone, remember to change the default from hosts and panelists to everyone. Because of how busy chat can get, we ask that you use the separate Q&A box to ask questions today, which can be opened the same way as the chat box. You can submit questions at any point during the webinar, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of the session. If you're following along with those questions as they come in, you can upvote them if they're similar to your own to let us know that it would be helpful to you to have them answered live. If we don't have time to get to all of the questions, we'll write up the responses to the remaining ones and to post all of the answers within the next few days alongside the session transcript. The Q&A, session recording, and transcript will be made available on the Apply for an Award page of our website by the end of the week. CLIR's work is accomplished by a relatively small staff of about 20 geographically distributed individuals, with the greatest concentration living in the DC area where our headquarters are located. Today's webinar is led by the CLIR grants team, which administers CLIR's active regranting program, offering support for the entire grant cycle from application to final report. We'll do quick introductions of the group so you know who we are and how we'll be participating today. I'm Alyson Pope. I'm a program officer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'll be contributing to the presentation and Q&A. We also have here today Sharon Burney, fellow program officer who's based in Midlothian, Virginia, contributing to the presentation and Q&A. Jane Larson, who is a program associate who is also based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who is contributing to the presentation and Q&A support. Lizzie Albert, who is the Deputy of Operations and is based in Washington, D.C., who is contributing to the Q&A and technical support, and Louisa Kwasigroch, who is our Managing Director based in Chicago, Illinois, and is contributing with Zoom logistics and Q&A support.
As you consider applying to our program, the most essential resource for you is the application guidelines. So combining instructions and insights into the program and its application process, the guidelines will allow you to draft responses to questions before adding them to our online grant application platform. A view-only Google Doc is linked to the Apply for an Award program page. Users without a Google account can access this version and download the document in whatever file format they wish, and then use in the file menu. So for those with a Google account, we've also included a link to create an editable copy of the document automatically. An updated version of the guidelines will be shared with those invited to submit a final application to the program. At our August 24th webinar, we received 47 questions and made sure to capture and answer all of them in writing, even if we couldn't get to them during the live session. These are all organized by topic, and you may find some of the answers to your questions there. So we'll put the link in the chat, and we'll be doing something similar for today's session.
In the week since we first shared the application guidelines, some questions have come up on a regular basis. So we're going to start by addressing a few of those, as well as things that were asked via the registration form, and then dive into the Q&A for today's session. So first, are small organizations eligible for this grant? And how do we know if we're eligible? To be eligible to apply, an organization must be located in the United States or Canada and fall within at least one of the nonprofit categories we listed on our website. If you have any questions about the eligibility of your specific organization, emailing us is the best way to be sure that you're eligible. There are no restrictions on the size of an organization, and in fact, in past cycles, reviewers have been very interested in funding smaller organizations to grow capacity. Our new review rubric this year includes a specific question about need, correlating to the question on the application: why do you need support from CLIR's program to undertake this project? We thought a lot about equity during this program's design and hope this will help reviewers make decisions with these considerations in mind, which were less explicit in earlier iterations of the program. Another question: do the collections we want to digitize need to be about communities or populations in the US, Canada, or North America? So no, the materials nominated for digitization must be owned and held by eligible organizations in the US and Canada, but there's no specific focus on collections relating to the US or Canada. The program has funded projects that focus on historical maps from Japan and manuscripts going back to the 1700s in the Muslim world, and archaeological research in Honduras. So really a wide variety of projects that disseminate rare and unique content about populations around the world. The requirements go back to eligibility guidelines. So as long as the collections are owned and held by an eligible organization in the US and Canada and fall within this thematic focus, they can be nominated for this program. Do you require a detailed description of existing physical objects or collections to already be in place or done? No, there's no minimum level of description required. However, our reviewers will expect a fair level of knowledge of the size and scope and condition of the collections so that you're able to present a compelling and competitive application to the program. In the final application, there'll be a space for you to share completed description if available. In the past, this has included links to library catalogs or other content management systems, finding aids, and inventories. Such materials help reviewers see the depth and breadth of the materials and have a better understanding of the work that has already been accomplished. Can we use grant funds to create materials like oral histories? So no, this program supports the digitization of rare and unique content, therefore creating oral histories is not allowable. What pre-digitization costs can be requested? Costs related to preparing materials for digitization are allowable, such as stabilization of materials condition, packing and shipping them to send to a digitization vendor, or initial metadata creation. But costs related to deciding what to include or not include would not be allowable. Applicants need to know exactly what materials they're going to digitize before completing an application. Grant funds may not be used for any activities undertaken prior to the project start date. Can we request funding for creating programming about the digitized materials? Occasionally, past recipients have requested and received small amounts of funding for conducting outreach related to their newly digitized collections, such as building a collection guide for students, for example. But any programming should be modest and strictly tied to connecting the newly digitized materials with potential user communities. Creating a documentary film, about the newly digitized collection or conducting a research project based upon the data in the collection would be outside the scope of this program. When are applicants notified whether they'll be invited to submit a full proposal? The timeline is on our program homepage, but we'll share the dates again on our next slide in case there are any questions about it. You'll be notified whether you're invited to submit a full proposal by mid-February 2025. And then those who do advance will have until May 5th, 2025 to prepare for that submission. And then one more question that's not included on the slide: which steps of data collection may be justified as an acceptable budget line? For the purposes of this program, digitization includes the digital reformatting of some physically rare or unique document or artifact, plus the generation of technical and descriptive metadata necessary to make the digital files created discoverable by their user communities. So often it can make sense to generate or update descriptions of the physical documents or artifacts in the context of the same project. So generating metadata and other descriptive records related to the materials to be digitized and the digital files you produce may all be included in a project. However, any data collection that would be more accurately described as research activity rather than digitization activity should be excluded from a project. For example, creating an entirely new collection by documenting towns or buildings or recording new oral histories are research rather than digitization activities. The purpose of this program is not to support original research or new documentation, but to use the physical collections held by organizations to create digital raw materials that can be later used for research and learning. If you have a question about whether these activities you want to do are digitization or research, you can write to us at hiddencollections@clir.org with your details, and our team will let you know. The cohort timeline. So initial applications must be submitted online by October 30th, 2024. We anticipate that all organizations that submit an initial application will be notified if they are invited to submit a final application by mid-February 2025. This year, we anticipate providing a greater level of support to those organizations invited to the final round to help develop initial applications into competitive final applications. And this will involve a number of individuals from CLIR's community, including members of our review panel. We anticipate notifying applicants of award notifications in August 2025, and then anticipate making the public announcement of funded projects in October 2025.
Okay, we're going to take time now to turn to your questions. I'll stop the screen share shortly. We'll do our best to get through as many as we can. May provide some typed answers if team members have the capacity during this session. Any unanswered questions will be answered in our transcript and shared to our website along with the recording. And that will be posted in about a week. So I'm going to pull down the share now. Okay. Sharon, would you mind taking one while I just get situated?
Yes, that's fine. The museum we want to apply for is within our school district. Our school district's eligible to apply. So yes, we have had school districts apply in the past. I would apply under the museum's name. City, state, and government organizations are eligible to apply, as long as the purpose of which museums are, the purpose of the organization is cultural heritage preservation. So you would probably want the museum to be the applicant, the lead applicant, and the school district could be a collaborating organization. You must own and hold the collections that you want to nominate for digitization. If you have more specifics that you want, or you have any other questions about your eligibility, please don't hesitate to email us directly at hiddencollections@clir.org.
Are there any cost share requirements? There are not any cost share requirements in this program. You can tell us if you intend to do some portion of the project via cost share. And particularly, you may want to make this explicit if you have alternate funding that you're using for other phases or sections of a broader digitization project, but we do not require that you perform any cost share.
I'm going to take the next one. Before that, I want to remind everybody to please submit your questions in the Q&A so we make sure we don't lose anybody in the chat. So, hello, we would like to work with a documentary collection of a family of Puerto Rican musicians, the Figueroa family. We want to digitize the collection and make it available to the public for free. We also want to develop an outreach program that includes the development of educational modules for students, virtual talks, creation of educational audio-visual capsules about the collection and about the history of the family and the musical environment in Puerto Rico, and small concerts for the community. Do you think that this type of initiative could be sponsored by CLIR? Okay, the first thing I want to say is that the focus of this Digitizing Hidden Collections, Amplifying Unheard Voices program is primarily the digitization of documents, of materials that have not been previously digitized. The next thing that needs to be focused on is, do you own and hold those collections? And is your organization that you are representing purpose primarily focused on cultural heritage preservation? So first, we want to address the eligibility of the organization. Do you reside in the United States or its territories in Canada? The outreach looks wonderful. My hesitancy is the focus of the project should primarily be the digitization of materials that have not been previously digitized. And then the limitation of fundings that would go all the way to concerts, I'm not sure. So that's problematic. That may be a little bit problematic, or not problematic, but you want to create a competitive application that centers on the digitization and why this is, why these materials would enrich upcoming scholars globally, locally, and sometimes transnationally. Once again, I suggest that you go to our guidelines and our apply for an award page and look at frequently asked questions and some of the examples of our funded projects.
If awarded, when does the grant period actually begin? So as we covered in the timeline, you will be invited to the next application phase sometime in mid-February of 2025. If invited to that second phase, that will close in early May. We will work through the review process with our independent review panel, and we anticipate making the decisions and making recipients aware in August. It then takes several months to typically execute the grant agreement forms. So payment will be distributed in late 2025, and projects should be slated to begin on January 1, 2026. So all projects would begin on January 1, 2026, and should end by December 31st, 2026, 2027, or 2028 to fit in within the regulations of the timelines for the grant.
I see this next question. I'd like for whoever submitted to add some additional information, because I'm a bit confused. Does digitization and subsequently integration into the digital library system considered research? In what aspects, I want to know, are you inquiring about the research of it? One of the things that we ask is that the nominated materials highlight would be a benefit to research scholars, both and advance research forward, the focus of Amplifying Unheard Voices is to nominate materials that are focused on amplifying underheard voices, BIPOC communities that are otherwise typically marginalized. And we want to advance the scholarship of that by making the metadata of that publicly available to scholars that would then take that forward and create new scholarship to amplify these underheard voices. That's what I think you're hinting at, but if there's more you want to add to that, please do. And we'll come back to that one.
Will you have technical assistants who can review drafts of the proposals before formally submitting them? We do not have a process to give review ahead of time. Every applicant will receive comments from the panel, whether they are invited to the next stage of the application or not. So everyone gets substantive feedback from our experts to build a stronger proposal, whether they would be resubmitting to us again in the future or whether they would hope to take it to a different funding organization. But we cannot, as an independent, with an independent panel and our desire to give all applicants equitable treatment, we cannot review proposals ahead of time and give tips on ways to strengthen them. No.
When would grant funds be available to use? I think this was answered a little earlier when we did the project timeline, but all projects should start January 1st. And typically what we do is we send one check to the lead applicant, and that is ready to go on January 1, if you are awarded funding.
So regarding modest programming, we are hoping to include funding for an event for HBCU alumni to interact with collections and potentially crowdsource info about photographs we will digitize with the grant. Is this programming eligible for funding? Yes, that would certainly be the type of programming that's eligible for funding. There's a degree to which that's outreach, but also that's part of your work that's integral to how you're processing this collection to begin with. So there's an argument to be made that that's pretty core to the digitization itself. And I do want to say when we get into how we talk about the outreach and programming components of these grants, we don't mean to discourage that. It's just that the core of the projects should be digitization. So if you put in a request for $300,000 and $50,000 is going towards digitization and $200,000 is going towards outreach, that won't be particularly competitive in front of the panel. So when we mean modest, we mean in terms of the scope of the program with digitization as the focus, but we don't mean to discourage you for looking for impactful ways to do outreach.
This is a great question. I'll try to ask this answer clearly, or this question clearly. We have a number of smaller collections that fit under a theme, but we've heard applications are stronger if they focus on just a few collections at most. Are there any recommendations or limitations to how many collections can be nominated? This is a great question. Proposals are so individualistic, right? Because they are focused on the needs and importance in certain communities and organizations, and they will vary. We want your collections that you nominate, or our reviewers are looking for cohesive thoughts around a collection. They could be a small group of collections that are focused on maybe one specific historical figure, or we've had collaborating projects as large as we had one project that had like 26 collaborating newspaper organizations. And the theme was newspaper organizations across the Midwest, small newspaper collections. It's up to you to tell that story significantly. Why are these small collections necessary? And why are they connected? And how are they connected to our core values? Also, I would encourage you to make sure that the reviewers are looking for collections and proposals that make sense budget-wise. So just as Alyson said earlier, a collection that had $50,000 towards digitization and $350,000 towards out 250 towards outreach might not be as competitive. Well, are these small collections, are you doing too much with the smaller collection, or are you doing too little with this smaller collection? So smaller collections don't mean that it's not a great proposal. We want your proposal to make sense fiscally, and we want you to tell that story in a compelling manner that the reviewers are going to be like, this is important, this is vital, we have to get this information out. Scholars are looking for this information. This is an underheard voice, and this is why.
Will the grant allow us to hire personnel to do the digitizing? Woo, struggled with that one. Sorry, everyone. Yes, the grant allows you to hire personnel. You can include salary lines. If you check our guidelines, it'll give you the detailed stipulations regarding limits for those categories. But we do not require that you use an outside vendor within this program. You can do in-house digitization, you can do outside digitization, or you can do a combo of the two based on what is the best fit for your project needs.
For a university archives collection, do reviewers prefer that universities use students in the digitization process, or do they prefer that this work be contracted out? Which way do the reviewers tend to lean? Honestly, they lean both ways. It definitely is great when students are able to do in-house digitization or learn from archivists and scholars how to do this work. It depends on your nominated materials. Is it something that shouldn't be left for a student to do because it's too at risk, or the margin of error could be too great? Or is it something where we're doing photographs and you're teaching it, and they get really excited about those things? It's really difficult to state when we don't know what the nominated materials are. We don't know what the span of the collection is. We don't know how large or small the collection is, and the timeline, because your projects can be 1 to 3 years. So that also plays into whether students are involved or not. They get excited when students are involved in a teaching environment, as most academics are, but we want to also make a plan in which they can succeed and your project can be successful.
Does funding cover microfilm duplication needed to create a print master copy of microfilm negatives that may be sent to a scanning vendor to create image files, or would this be considered film to film transfer? I know microfilm is like a little bit of an odd category, but this is not considered film to film transfer, and this would be an eligible format for the program. I know that's a little bit confusing because some of microfilm is copies itself, because of the age of that format and the high risk of degradation. We do not consider that to be film to film ineligible transfer under the program.
Can you clarify what it means to own and hold the archives? We are a small nonprofit. If we want to digitize something from a university library, can we partner with them with their permission to digitize the materials? So what we mean when we ask people to own and hold the collections, that means that the collections are housed within your organization and you own and hold the rights to those collections, or the nominated materials, the materials that you're nominating. We have IP reviewers that look over the rights, ethics, and reuse issues that may arise from digitizing these collections. So the first thing we want to ensure people is that you do own these collections within your organization, and you hold the rights to digitize these and make the metadata publicly available to the public once the digitization process is over. If you're a small nonprofit and you don't own and hold the collections within your organization, in your facility, then it would make more sense for the library, the university library, to be the lead applicant, and then you partner with them as a collaborative organization.
I'll do two because the next one is quite easy. Is the National Park Service an eligible applicant? Yes, I believe we've had applications from them in the past, although I'm not sure that they've been funded, but they're an eligible applicant. My organization, the Applicant, is a nonprofit arts organization, and we will be doing the actual digitization. However, we would be interested in partnering with an Indigenous-owned and operated private company to host the digitized materials for free public access on an existing web platform. None of the funding would have to go to this partner, but we want to make sure that would be acceptable to build them in as a partner, as we believe they already have the best platform for access to this material. Yes, in short, you could use this company and you could use any number of private companies. They're just not going to come on the project as collaborators. So there's space in the guidelines for subcontractors and consultants, and many of those may be private companies that you utilize for your digitization or software migration or storage needs. So there's no prohibition on that. They would just not be included as an eligible collaborator on the grant because they are not a nonprofit.
Is it eligible if the collection holdings belong to its original private owner, but the digitization and license use is through an institution? So is it the nominated materials or is it the organization? So we don't digitize private collections. However, if your organization has a gift of deed of the collection of, and when I say collection, I'm talking about the nominated materials for digitization, then that's something you would explain in your rights, ethics, and reuse statement. And we do have an area where you can upload in additional documents the rights, ethics, and you reuse it. Information, which is explained, should be explained clearly to the reviewers, and you can upload the gift of deed in the additional document section. So I think we're talking about two different things. If it is the nominated materials, then that's the way you would go. If it is an organization, then that's a little tricky. The organization should own and hold the materials. So, yeah. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think the eligibility requirements are that the organization own and hold the materials. So I'm not quite clear on that question, but if you want to send us a follow-up email or a follow-up Q&A with more details, we can give you a more specific answer to the circumstances, perhaps. Will the program support the arranging and describing of archival collections to prepare them for digitizing? Ideally, this has happened largely before you are at the point of application for this program, but there is money allowed for conservation and organization necessary for digitization, but there's not like collection assessment funds available. So if you're that far back in the process, you may need an outside grant to cover that stage of the work before you're prepared to move on to a digitization application.
Can this grant be used for individuals? I am researching and hoping to digitize Black women living in the 19th century. Marriage records are housed in Philadelphia, even though they lived in the Caribbean. So my question is, can individuals successfully apply for this grant? This grant is only open to nonprofit cultural heritage organizations in the United States and Canada. And that includes the United States territories, but you first have to be a nonprofit or organization whose primary focus is cultural heritage preservation. Sounds like an interesting project, though.
If a cultural heritage group owns and holds the materials and wants to keep them in-house, but it does not have their own internal archiving expertise, is it acceptable for funds to go to 1, a trusted archiving partner to guide them but not acquire the materials from them, and 2, an in-house archivist to project manage their digitizing work. Both of those would be allowable costs within the program. As I said, we do not require that you do in-house digitization. There are a number of funded projects that do their digitization entirely through outside vendors that have reputations for the type of digitization that they're looking for, particularly people with specific formats that they don't have the capacity to do in-house. We also have had a number of funded projects where a smaller arts or community organization has profited, or collaborated with a nearby larger nonprofit that has greater experience to utilize them to help build the project out. And those we see and have the space to allow for these collaborative projects as long as both entities are eligible, or you can choose to use them as a subcontractor or consultant.
Is integration into digital library make it eligible, or is that process considered research? I ask since it's not digitization specifically. I think this might be clarification from an earlier question, which still is leaving a lot out. The primary focus of this program is to digitize materials that have yet to be digitized. Primary documents, photos, sometimes audio visual in non-digitized forms, is the primary focus. If this question is related to the earlier one, I'd prefer that you tell us the nominated collections, what your organization is, and what your idea is in an email, and to lay it out specifically so that we can be clear to answer, we can answer your question more succinctly. Because I'm still think there's a lot missing from the question. Alyson, do you have any input in that?
I think that they think that research is a disallowed cost, so they're asking if costs outside of digitization are disallowed costs.
It won't
Costs
be
outside of digitization.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not necessarily disallowed costs, and you'll want to look at the guidelines. We have a breakdown of allowable and disallowed costs. So whether or not a piece of the process is considered research won't necessarily
Be disallowed.
Yes, it
But
just
it won't be
means that
competitive.
the grant is not designed to build research projects. It's designed to digitize collections.
Yeah, yeah. And so we do have in our guidelines, which is your friend, our handbook and guidelines is your friend, the disallowed and allowable costs under the budget area of the guidelines.
Do we have stats available for number of awards versus number of applications received in prior years? Because we haven't done the announcement of our last cycle, I cannot tell you the exact number of awardees. I can tell you that we had roughly 135 ballpark initial applicants, and we invited somewhere between 47 and 49 to the second application. So that tells you how competitive the initial round was in the previous year. The numbers in terms of projects funded were higher in this last cycle than in previous cycles. We had a higher number of grantees looking for the lower range of the award limit.
Looking at past cohorts, it seems university partnerships are valued. Would a proposal from a small museum without a university partnership not be competitive? We love seeing small museums, public libraries, indigenous organizations, and non-traditional Research One universities apply for grants. And we've had higher numbers in the past few years, especially since we've changed to this new iteration. So no, that's not what makes your that's not a less competitive application. How you write and compel and tell the story is competitive application. The importance of your nominated materials and collections makes a competitive application and one that is fiscally sound. The project plan and a work plan and the digitization plan is clearly and succinctly communicated in your application. Those are competitive applications.
So we have, is it okay if a project is completely focused on digitization without any other objective? I would say this piggybacks onto Sharon's question and answer about competitiveness. The panel is going to look for impact, the broad impact of digitizing and making these materials accessible. So it can be hard to tell the story around that impact if you're not talking about how these materials will be sort of made available and put out into the world. But it is entirely possible that you could do that via cost share and have $300,000 of the grant go entirely to digitization. There's no prohibition against that. I would just be concerned from a perspective of competitiveness that the panel is going to look for some way that you're communicating outreach and impact outside of that funding.
Our nonprofit owns our materials. We would like to digitize. However, we need to get permission from tribal members to be able to make it public. We want to digitize all materials. However, not all of the final media will be made available to the public. Some might only be available to the tribes themselves. Is that still eligible? Yes, it is. We do understand that this new iteration requires for some culturally sensitive and necessary rights, ethics, and reuse issues. And as long as you explain that clearly and succinctly in your rights, ethics, and reuse section, that if there's a takedown plan that's necessary, this wouldn't apply to you, but if there's a takedown plan that's necessary for parts of the nominated materials that you don't have clarity for, that our IP reviewers want to say, hey, they understand what these issues are, they have a plan for that, and it's okay. And so, yes, you are still eligible. We love to see projects from tribal organizations.
Are collections that have been acquired by my institution's library archives but have yet to be cataloged eligible for this funding scheme? If so, can a small part of the budget be allocated for cataloging? It can be eligible for this program as long as you have a firm sense of what you have. We see groups with collections in this stage that really know what's in there, and we see groups with collections in this stage that would benefit from more time to do collection assessment. And I would say that the panel is pretty good at sussing out the difference there, but you can include metadata cataloging as part of the processing of the materials through your digitization workflow.
Is the rights, ethics, and reuse statement part of the preliminary application or only the final application? I think on page 18 of your guidelines, they do want a statement about your rights, ethics, and reuse. The instructions are there. They're really, really clear. And within the instructions of the guidelines are recommendations about the rights, ethics, and reuse that you can follow. They just want you to address it, what those concerns may be, what are your plans for access and the reuse of the digitized materials and related metadata and descriptions. So what are the steps that you're going to take? What's the rationale for any assumptions that the proposed project is both legal and ethical, and any fees or barriers of access that people will have? They want you to explain it. They just want you to explain it clearly to them. And so take a look at those. Your guidelines are your hand.
Definitely look at the guidelines for this aspect too, because The panel is going to look at the application with these questions in mind. So I feel that sometimes applicants come upon them and realize that they haven't answered them. So make sure that you actually answer those sections for rights, ethics, and reuse. And if you see that you can't, it may prompt you to realize that there's something you're overlooking in your overall plan.
And you might have the plan already there, but you just haven't relayed it clearly and succinctly. Each application will have an IP reviewer who will only be looking at the rights, ethics, and reuse. The other reviewers will be looking at that issue, but not as clearly as the IP reviewer.
Can some staff time for copyright research be included with this grant, or must all permissions and copyright domain be verified before application? It's a disallowed cost to pay counsel for copyright assessment. So I feel like there's perhaps two different kinds of copyright assessment being discussed here. If we're talking about a process, like has been mentioned before, where an organization is consulting with their individual members about specific materials to see if those need to be held from public access because of personal information, that is something that can happen and be funded through the program. But an assessment of the overall copyright status of the collection done by a legal professional is not an allowed cost.
Is that it? Any more questions? No, this will be verification by regular staff. Is that new? No, this would be verification by regular staff.
I think that's it.
That's it. Oh, we didn't answer the, no, this would, oh, this is a two-part to your question.
Oh.
No, this would be verification by regular staff. Yes and no. I don't know about that. I mean, you could put staffing in. This is something, but I will say that primarily we would like for you to have an idea of what your rights, ethics, and reuse in this assessment of your collections prior to nominating the materials.
I would also say that we use 2 IP reviewers specifically for this program. So every application will go through IP review, and it's really them that makes the call of whether an applicant is ready or not, or has outstanding issues that they may need to address. So they're better positioned than us to make those calls. But in terms of staff looking to decide that materials need to be held from access because of the reasons we mentioned above, that wouldn't be particularly different than community members.
Are university research institutes with archival holdings be eligible? Yes. And I'm gonna knock this other one out too. Is an organization allowed a fiscal agent? For instance, the school district will serve as a fiscal agent and manage the grant for the museum. That is correct. And then there's another one, Alyson.
Here, let me. I can't see.
Does digitization include 3D digitizing of artifacts? We have had 3D digitizing checks in the past. We seek support to digitize VHS in 8mm formats. Is this within the scope of this project? Yes, it is.
Yes. So I think that is the end of our questions.
Alyson, we have a couple more coming through. If you have time, I'll just let you know that. Thanks.
Okay. Let's see. To the question of materials held, we're soliciting personal family archives from affiliated communities, so it's not in hand in the organization right now. Does that count? That would probably not be an eligible project because we do not do collecting grants. So you're in the collecting part of the process, and you're not yet to the digitizing part of the process. And you probably have a step or two in between, but that is more research based, and we do not have allowance for that within the program's funding. Is creation of finding aids and rehousing, repackaging a collection preliminary to digitization allowed? Yes, this is allowed as a conservation or preservation form of treatment that's necessary to get the materials ready for digitization and complete the project. So if you look more at the disallowed and allowed costs in the guidelines appendices, you will see that that is an allowed cost. And we have there been digital preservation associated costs that have been approved? Yes.
Yes.
As long as they're in the scale of the scope of the program with the focus on digitization as the primary expense, digital preservation and related systems have been included in the past.
Yep. If we have a photo collection to digitize, can we include writings and commentaries on the collection in the digital library that gets published? Of course you can.
If the personal family archive is in hand but not deeded to institute and ready to digitize, is this eligible? It would not be eligible unless it is in the possession of an eligible institution.
Is that it? Yeah.
Okay, I
Sounds
think we will call that it, and I will put up our last slide.
So as we wrap up, we want to make note of a super short survey about this session, and your honest feedback on this webinar will help us in the future. We'll share this link. I think it's already been shared in the chat, and it'll also be included in an automated message after the event. Thank you so much.
Thanks all.